And welcome back to yet again another edition of Devil Dash. Josh, I believe we are on episode 17, I believe this is now. It's been a long road, and to be honest, feels like we haven't gone a whole lot of places, and we're going to get into that. I'm your host, Wills Rice, along here with Josh. We are your host of Devil Dash, and Josh, we talked about the football season ending in Corvallis and, kind of the no bowl game and what the season meant. We're going to be shifting a little bit to basketball talk this week, and, we're going to touch on football as well, but going over to our first topic, this ASU basketball team, Josh. Man, there's a lot of hype going into the season. We have, one of the best point guards in the country returning in Remy Martin. We had arguably one of the best recruiting classes we've seen since James Harden, with Josh Christopher and Marcus Bagley coming into town. You saw Romello White transfer out to Ole Miss, and, it wasn't a big piece of last year's team, but he's showing that he really is being missed. Josh, what do you think of this ASU team? Are they a tournament team? Can they make a run? Tell me what you think.
Well, before we get started, Wills, I just want to say, hey, I'm excited to start talking a little bit more basketball with you.
Yeah.
We got a good team under Bobby Hurley, the former Duke star. And Happy New Year to everyone back home watching and supporting us. We love you. We're going to ride it out. This is our first show of 2021. And like Will said, let's get right into it. And this ASU basketball team, it's really tricky to break down. You said we lost Romello White. I think, and we'll kind of get into detail a little bit later, I think we are really, really missing Romello White and his rebounding ability. And Daquan Lake as well. Right now, the Sun Devils, we're hurting. We are getting out-rebounded every game, playing to our opponent's will, and that is not good. But, yeah, we haven't played in 3 weeks due to COVID, and that's kind of hard to form an identity around this team. I mean, there's going to be a lot of haters out there that look at that University of Texas school and that pretty bad loss we had and just come out there and really just throw the hate right in our face. We're kind of at the bottom of the Pac-12, but I think we have a really tough schedule, and I think we can kind of elevate our play to this like we have in the past. Sorry
to cut you off there. We have one more first comment from our co-host Jason Marks over there at Buffalo Dash with the Buffs, and he had put McKinley with the Carrots better than Martin, which, I swear to gosh, McKinley's been there for like 6.5 years. He's been there forever.
Nightmares of that man.
Yeah, he's never. I can't remember a Colorado basketball game where he has not been there. But
and he's not dropped 30 points on us.
The thing that I feel that is important to remember with this ASU basketball team that's new of past is that year that we kind of came onto the scene as Guard U, and we beat Kansas in Kansas, and we got up to number like 3 or 4 in the country. It was a new team, but like it was new to America. It wasn't new to anyone in Arizona. We had Trey Holder, we had Shannon Evans, we had Cody Justice. A lot of people that were, they were seniors. They had been there for a while. And that's, ASU basketball, because we don't get a lot of these hot shot recruits. But that being said, this year, I think it's important to remember that these kids are freshmen. Our best player, outside of Remy Martin, who's been hit or miss in some big games, but, with Bagley and Josh Christopher, they're 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids. And it's important to remember that ASU's not like Duke or, Kansas or, look at Kentucky this year. I think Kentucky's 1-6 or 1-7. Like, putting together a group of young talent is not all that easy. The fact that we're 4-3 right now, and, we've played some decent teams, with a loss to Villanova in there, you're going to get some losses. And I think it's important to see how this team plays now, but really more importantly, how Bobby Hurley can get the growth of this team going, throughout the entire tournament. And looks like we have a little camera issue with Josh. We'll see if we can get this back up here. But, ASU they probably would have been a tournament team last year. It's tough because, COVID canceled it, so you don't get to really tout that. But Bobby Hurley was building a program and, putting it forward as I believe this was going to be our 3rd or 4th consecutive year entering the tournament if last year would have permitted those rules to get in. It's difficult under a few circumstances because this year, obviously, like the title says on the bottom, they haven't played in 3 weeks due to COVID. And when you do have a young team, like I'm mentioning with Bagley and with Josh Christopher, you're going to need these games to get them experience. And you really don't want their experience to be happening during the prime of Pac-12 play, because if Pac-12 play comes around and these guys aren't ready to play, then you could have some serious issues about making the tournament, because we've seen ASU teams in the past really barely get into the tournament, and probably in years they should have had a few more wins, or maybe you should have done better than they have. And the problem with ASU is we don't have that standard yet of what needs to be done. Kind of like the Arizona Cardinals. Like, yeah, we had improvements, but what is the standard? Is this a disappointing year or not? And I think that's something that this year is going to be very important for Hurley and the Sun Devils of deciding what that standard is and setting the standard, because we've seen guard you. We kind of surprised the nation of putting together that team that could shock the world, that beat the Kansas. We beat them twice in a row, and I think that's really important. But building the program is kind of what this ASU team needs to do, because last year was disappointing at times. We saw some big wins, and the team really played well late to probably make that last tournament push. But hey, Josh, welcome back. I was just talking about ASU team, the freshman kind of building some continuity with the team. But what is the standard for this team? I think that's something that needs to be established this year, because last year and in years past, we've kind of snuck into the tournament, maybe in the play-in game. And, a lot of fans are like, all right, great, we made it in. We lost to Buffalo, or, but what is that standard? Should we be happy with a tournament, appearance and an exit? What should be the standard? And I think that's something, when you're building the ASU basketball culture, that's going to be important to, kind of set that standard this season.
Well, I think the standard, if you just look at the history, that's the first thing we're going to base our standards off of, right? Is our past performance.
Yeah.
And that's, at least at this point, this should be our third. Last season, I'm pretty sure it should have been our third consecutive March Madness appearance.
Yes, correct.
So you could I guess you could say we would have gotten in that time if the tournament had gone on. So I guess you could say this would have been our fourth appearance. And, we don't know how we would have done last year, but man, at my minimum standard for, going into this year was at least I want to go as far as say 2 or 3 wins into the tournament, because, that's the Bobby Hurley winning culture that he came from at Duke, and he's trying to establish at Arizona State. And I'm sorry I cut out. I think the internet was but that's something you kind of said earlier about, these guys being 18 and 19 and, trying to be the best player on our team. Think about how hard that is for them to, continue this winning culture and sustain that pressure of Bobby Hurley on your neck. And, it all just adds up. COVID season, throw that in there. It is a lot to ask of these kids.
Well, and I think something for this team that needs to be established going forward is we've really yet to see a game where Josh Christopher and Remy Martin have both played well. When those are the two best players, and Bagley has been an awesome addition as well. I think he's going to be a great NBA player, but it's something that needs to be where does Remy Martin, what is his role of this team? Because we know he can score when he wants to and turn it on the Jets. Great at getting to the rim, getting to the foul line, and hitting, shots that really aren't that open. And he's fantastic at that. But, there seemed to be in some games some question of where's the ball going to go to in a clutch shot. Is it Remy Martin or is it Josh Christopher? And I think there's different nights where if you look at Remy Martin's stat line, he kind of decides on different nights, I'm going to go off for 30 points when the team needs me tonight. Or, I'm going to go off and I'm going to dish out 10 to 12 assists. And I think Remy Martin needs to establish kind of a middle ground of, hey, I need to average, 15 to 17 points and 7 to 8 assists. And I think that's going to be important for this team moving forward, because Remy is a leader. And yes, there are going to be games where we need him to get 30 points to win the game. And it's going to be important. But, for these players to grow, Remy needs to be a leader in other ways of just scoring and kind of trying to make the offense rely through him. And I think that's some of the losses, especially the Villanova game. We saw Remy Martin try to do a little too much.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Wills, because, I just saw a couple of Bob Hurley quotes and Bobby Hurley, excuse me, and he really said that he didn't think that Remy had found his, or Remy was trying to be something other than what he really was.
Yeah.
What he is he is the top. He should be the top scorer on this team. He's been doing that for around 2.5 or 2, maybe 3 years now.
Yeah. This is his fourth year now, I believe, with ASU. So
Yeah, and that's just who he has to. He has to be himself. That's what Bobby Hurley said. You can't let these other guys that are coming in, top recruits, come in and affect how you manage your team, how you score on your terms, things like that. Little adjustments is how you should let that affect your game. But Bobby Hurley was really confident in that Remy Martin was going to come back and be the player after this break, come back and be the player that he always has been. And I think that can only lead to Sun Devils' success.
yeah, and I think Josh Christopher is going to be important going forward, obviously, but this is Remy Martin's team. So, it's really only going to go as far as he wants to take them leadership-wise with the scoring and I think his passing is the most important. But, one of the ultimate goals for ASU is do something they haven't done, and I can't even remember when, is, win a regular season Pac-12 title. And that's going to be our next topic here is, who do you think at the end of the day is going to reign supreme in Pac-12 hoops? So I have it in there. They're 4-3 right now and 1-0 in conference. It's very important they actually did get that one conference win because for some reason, it puts them up there at 1-0 in conference with the win over Cal. But they have a difficult schedule coming up. They got the Southern California schools with UCLA on Thursday and USC on Saturday, and then they go to the only ranked team in the Pac-12 at Oregon the following Thursday. Outside of U of A, I'm going to count U of A out because of their, as everyone knows, University of Arizona gave themselves a 1-year postseason ban for college basketball. So I'm going to exclude them this year because they are not allowed in the postseason. Josh, give me your favorite right now to win the Pac-12 in basketball.
It's hard. I mean, we all know the Pac-12 of all conferences eats itself alive no matter what sport, regardless of what's going on. They don't care if there's a pandemic going on, by the way. But I'm going to have to go with the preseason favorite, UCLA. I mean, look, that's a great basketball school, great college basketball history there. Finally getting back to, what a premier program they used to be. They were the preseason favorite. I don't know if I said that already. And they're 3-0 in conference right now. So, hey, they're looking good. Or Washington State 8-0. That's my underdog dark horse pick to win.
I believe Washington State actually has 2 losses now. I know they just lost to U of A the other night, and then maybe 1 loss.
Yeah, 8-1, I believe, actually. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah. With the Pac-12, it's interesting. We talked about them eating each other alive. It's this year it seems like we say this with football, with basketball every year, that it's so wide open. And it's so we're talking about it so early, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But outside of Washington and Cal, Washington's 1-7 on the year, Cal's 5-6, and then Washington's 0-3 in conference, and Cal is 0-4. Outside of those 2 teams, there's really not a bad team in the Pac-12. Oregon State, Utah, some of the teams that don't jump out off the page, but I look at Oregon. Oregon's the only ranked team right now in the Pac-12. They're 8-1, and they're on an 8-game winning streak, so they lost their first game of the season. The reason why I think Oregon's one to watch is their only loss is to a Missouri team, and that's a Missouri team that actually has played very well. They have a win over Illinois. Illinois is a good team, and their only loss, Missouri, is to Tennessee this year, and Tennessee's a top 10 team. So I think that's a very valid loss for Oregon to have moving forward. And when it comes tournament time, that's not going to be one that really jumps out because it is there's no such thing as a good loss, but it does matter who you lose to. So I think when it comes to tournament seedings, I think Oregon has the best opportunity to be ranked higher because of where they place themselves with an early loss and who they lost to. When it comes to just standings, I think it's tough. I mean, USC has, Evan Mobley, ASU has so much to figure out. UCLA has the talent. And then U of A, although they can't really win the title, I think they could play spoiler for a lot of teams. It's a good team. Not a whole lot was expected out of them, but they're really rolling down there. So, I'm not going to say keep an eye on them, but keep an eye on who they beat and who they might lose to. Because if you can snag a win against U of A, I think you have put yourself in a good shot to win the Pac-12 title.
Yeah, and Oregon, I'm not trying to knock Oregon right now. Look, Dana Altman, their head coach, is fantastic with what he's doing. Their program is ridiculous. But hey, they're susceptible now. There used to be a guy on their team. Thank heavens he's not there anymore. Hayden Pritchard. He's gone. That means they are very susceptible to, losing games. And that dude has been a stone cold killer for years, especially when he plays Arizona State.
So
and
true.
I don't see that guy. I don't think they have that guy to come in a close game, whether it be a conference game or not, or whether it's deeper in the tourney, to come in and just make every single shot that they need to win games.
I mean, yeah, it's a valid concern, but so far, I mean, they played Eastern Washington, beat them by 17. They lost to Missouri by 8, but outside of that, their only game within one possession was Washington. I know Washington isn't a very good team, but they beat them by 3 points. Other than that, Oregon has been blowing people out. Beat a good Seton Hall team by 13. They beat Cal by 13. They beat a good Stanford team by 17. Beat Portland by 39. So, you're right. There are going to be close games down the stretch, but right now they're not needing those close games. And I think that's why they're such an interesting team, because not only did they lose their first game of the season to a very good ranked Missouri team, but they really got it firing since then. They've won 8 in a row and only one game in single digits. So that's why I think right now they're my team to watch. But let's throw ASU into this. What do you think ASU needs to do? What do you need to see from them for them to be even in the running for this Pac-12 title?
Well, I'm pretty sure that ASU has 8 quadrant 1 games remaining on their schedule so far this season, or later this season. And well, that right there, they just have to capitalize upon those games, at least go 7-1. That is a statement and a half right there to the committee. We've already lost 3 games due to COVID. I guarantee you we lose 4 more, or 4 more down the stretch to other teams, with outbreaks within other programs. So it's going to be tough for ASU. I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot already with that loss to UTEP, and then a resounding loss to San Diego State. I mean, that should have been a really good game that they fought, and at least losing on anything other than less than 3 points is a decent loss to a great San Diego State program.
Yep.
But I don't know. ASU definitely has their work cut out for them. I mean, as you can see, the big guys in the conference are already, besides U of A, they're already making their moves, and they're looking like they're rounding into form. So ASU's got some real leadership, capabilities that they need to figure out on this team. And I don't want anyone else to figure that out other than Bobby Hurley, because that's our guy.
We're going to switch over in a second to, the current state of ASU hoops. And I not that I have a rant to go on about what we need to see from ASU, but there are questions that need to be answered. And I think a big thing about Bobby Hurley is, that ASU needs to know is, he's been great at recruiting. The recruiting has been a huge upgrade, since Herb Sendek and, pretty much anyone that stepped foot onto campus for ASU basketball. And no one's really complained. The thing that I've seen is Bobby Hurley gets outcoached a lot. And when I say that, I mean, we have a lot of times when we're playing the Grand Canyons, we're playing the San Diego States, we have more talent than them. And I think it's pretty fair to say that, we have more talent than Grand Canyon. No one's going to argue that. Grand Canyon is a well-coached team that, they really play to their strengths. And when you ask that question about an ASU team, what are these strengths? They don't have that answer for you right now. Obviously, Remy Martin's a strength. Josh Christopher's a strength. Bagley's a strength. But what are their strengths? They're a strength for this team. They're one of the better players. But like I said, ASU doesn't have that identity. And, I think this is a good little bridge for our next topic. What is the current state of ASU athletics? And, Josh, I wrote about this before the season. I talked about it on these airwaves about ASU urge to find that identity. And I wrote about the arrival of Arizona State sports. This is it. This is their chance to announce their name in a down year in the Pac-12. And, this is their chance. And I don't blame anyone for this COVID-ridden season. And, it's really no one's fault. But ASU missed the boat of beating USC, beating UCLA, and kind of taking advantage of the season. Now we're in the same spot with ASU. Down Pac-12 year, there's one ranked team. You don't have the U of A's being ranked in the top 10, the UCLA's with Lonzo Ball. Like, those teams simply aren't here. And I'm urging ASU, you need to find that identity before it's too late. Before ASU found it against U of A football. I mean, that's too late. That was your second to last game of the season. It's like, it's simply too late at that point. And I don't want ASU to use COVID as an excuse, because the basketball season is so much longer than the football season is. Whereas if you miss 1 to 2 games in football, your season's over. ASU still has a chance to rein it in and take advantage of this year. And I think that's going to start with Bobby Hurley and his coaching styles, because these, like I said, these are 19-year-old kids. And if ASU does want to be a program that has arrived, they need to get out of that track of we're getting better. We're getting better. No, there needs to be that standard here of winning. Winning is the standard. And I don't think ASU's established that. And I think it's time for the basketball team to really set that standard this year, because the football team didn't really have the opportunity, but the slight one they didn't take advantage of it.
When you think of ASU's, where they're at as an athletic, the current state of ASU athletics, it's tough because, we've got Herm Edwards. We've got one of the top quarterbacks out of, California, and Jaden Daniels. And then you got guys like N'Keal Harry, who are going in the first round. And, if you crunch all that up within 5 or 4 years, for the past 4 or 3 years, we've been on the rise. But like you said, of all years, this was our year to make a statement, put our name out there, and get people to know about us, because we have the ESPN games now. We have the ASU USC. That's must-see television. Like, if anyone doesn't agree with that, fight me in the comments on Twitter. I'm waiting for you. That was a great game. ASU should have won that game, but we didn't. In my personal opinion, like you said, I think we kind of made up for it with whooping on U of A like that. That brought me more joy than maybe my first son will bring me in future years. I'm not sure. But the basketball team does have a chance to make up for this. I mean, this should have been our best basketball team in almost ever, I'd go to say. I mean, not ever. In the past 30, 40 years. We got a higher recruit, better than Harden.
Yeah.
And, a surrounding cast for him that has made 3 tourney appearances. And for how they performed this season has been just, terrible, in my opinion, because you got to win. You got to beat UTEP. UTEP might be the key to it all, because you got to beat that team by 25 points.
Yeah, and that's a game that could come back to bite you later when you're comparing resumes during March Madness. Is a game like UTEP, like that's a bad loss. That's one that kind of jumps out of the page for a committee. But something that I think is interesting, the question that we have on the title screen is, what is the current state of ASU athletics? And I think it's interesting because that answer is kind of the same thing as like the answer that we have for the football team and for the basketball team is like, we don't have that answer for you yet, but like we should soon. And the reason I think it's most interesting is because, look at the names like Marvin Lewis, Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce his name was linked to that U of A job. Marvin Lewis has been getting talks about the NFL. A lot of these coaches that get second jobs somewhere else is because they had a lot of success on a stage before that. And ASU doesn't have that success. That's why I'm a little confused. It's like, yes, the recruiting's been good, but the wins aren't there to show it. The guy that's looking at the Boise State job is the Oregon defensive coordinator. They had a lot of great players, and they made a big bowl game. Like, stuff like that makes sense. Would a Bobby Hurley want to go? Everyone's saying that he could be the successor to Coach K at Duke because he was such a great player for Duke. It's like, if you're Duke and you're one of the top name programs, what a step down. Obviously, Coach K to anyone is a step down, but why would you want Bobby Hurley? He hasn't won a real tournament game yet. Like, Not even one game. The Duke standard of excellence is winning championships. And the NFL standard is you don't want to make the playoffs. You want to win a Super Bowl. And it's like, is Marvin Lewis going to be that guy for you? And why ASU? Because the wins aren't there. So that's why I think this question, the way it's stated, is actually pretty interesting, because we still don't have those answers of, the football team, the basketball team, the baseball team. They were one of the best teams in the country last year before COVID hit. And it's like, we really just, we're waiting. We keep waiting for these things to happen. And it just seems like next year. Breaking news, we're on our last year of Jaden Daniels. We're on our last year of Remy Martin. Josh Christopher and Bagley are probably both going to the draft after this. So, after this year, like it or not, you could be back to the drawing board, starting over from this program that you've been building.
And it's who has the hardest job in the world right now if he's listening in on us talking about this?
Ray Anderson.
How does he figure out, whether or not to go along with another year of Bobby Hurley, after everything that's happened? And, how does someone like Ray Anderson take into effect COVID and everything else in this right now, in this time, to determine, all right, do we need, hey, Herm Edwards has been here 3 years now. I guess you can say 2.5, right? You got 2.5 now, because that wasn't really a full season. But what improvement have we really seen from Todd Graham? Better
from Herm Edwards.
From Herm Edwards. Better recruiting and a better U of A game agenda.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to say this really quickly. I don't want to say either of these coaches are on the hot seat by any means, because from where they took the program over to where it is now are both steadily improvements. I think Herm Edwards has a little more to show on paper of, hey, I'm actually building an NFL model program here, and wins are going to come. I think, this year it's so much harder for COVID and football to, like we said, you miss a game, your season's over. Basketball, you can kind of rebound from this, no pun intended, but, you can kind of get back to your season and bounce back. I think there's a little more pressure on Hurley, maybe not to even win a tournament game, but, take that next step and make it to the tournament without being in the play-in game.
Yeah, I think like you said, Hurley's main job right now is to just coach these kids. Like you said, you got a bunch of guys, a bunch of talent on one team, and everybody wants their shot. Everybody wants their ball handling time. They want that scoring ability. And man, that's hard to dish out. Like we saw happen. I mean, this is a little jump, but the Clippers got star-studded. I mean, we're nowhere near the college equivalent of the Clipper. We're not Duke or anything like that. But hey, that's what happens when you see a bunch of talent on one team, a bunch of guys who like to do their own thing. And, I'm not saying anyone on ASU is this is my team, blah, 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 my ball, my whatever. But, man, Bobby Hurley really needs to, especially right now, like you said, with how COVID affected football and how ASU basketball can make this jump. And I don't know about you, but for the past 2 years, I've been saying, hey, we're a basketball school. We're a basketball school now. And Bobby Hurley's and this team is kind of really letting me down, because we came in at preseason number 18, and I'm pretty sure we're at 104, 105 right now, below U of A.
Yeah, I mean, U of A is 9-1. They're not a bad school this year, and it's because they have a coach that, I mean, he's a good coach. And as much as we don't like Sean Miller, he's a great coach. He's done some great things with that program. But, the thing that I wouldn't expect, especially from a Herm Edwards team, but, where both these teams are really lacking is we're almost out of time here, but, they both lack that leadership. That first year of guard U, we had those 3 senior guards and, Cody Justice, Shannon Evans, and Trey Holder. And, the leadership, the right decisions, when something went bad, they would come back with an answer 3, and, they never seem to hold their heads. Remy is such an energy guy, and I really don't mean to hold this against him in a bad way, but like when things go bad, you can kind of feel that energy spiral into bad energy, and it kind of spreads around the team. And Bobby Hurley, with the ASU football team is like, who is their verbal go-to leader? Was it Chase Lucas? Is it the fact that we have to ask that question is something that, it kind of needs to be answered. I wouldn't really expect it from Herm Edwards. I kind of do expect it in a young basketball team, but those are two things I look for football team next year and for ASU the rest of the season is for Remy Martin to kind of become that senior leader that they need him to be, and for Jaden Daniels to also become that leader as well.
Yeah, I'm on there with you. I mean, Remy, if according to Herm, Remy should be good to go for the rest of the season, and we'll see with Jaden. I mean, hey, I expect nothing but great things next year from Jaden and this team.
Yes, and unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. Make sure you are following us. Our Twitter names are right there if you want to keep up with any ASU information. We tweet about sports and everything ASU all day. Make sure to follow us at Dash Sports TV on all social media. If there's a social media, we have it at Dash Sports TV or our website, www.dashsports.tv. And then we do columns now. You can find our columns exclusively on Sports Pac-12. Give them a follow on Twitter if you're not already at Sports Pac-12. And you can find their website at sportspac12.com. Josh, I'm Wills. We want to say thank you, and we will see you next week for some more Sun Devil talk. Thank you, and have a great day, and Happy New Year.